Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Omaha Table Talk. My name is Jennifer Zheng, and I use she, her pronouns, and I am the program partner at Inclusive Communities. So, before we start, I would like to acknowledge the traditional homelands of the Native and Indigenous people who have lived and continue to live on the land we gather upon. These lands were originally inhabited by the Omaha, Ponca, Pawnee, Oto, Missouri, Santee Dakota Sioux, Kansas, Iowa, Cheyenne, and Winnebago people. We take this time to acknowledge the past, present, and future of Indigenous people and to recognize their ever present systemic inequities stemming directly from past wrongdoings and strive to commit ourselves indefinitely to respecting and reconciling this long history of injustice for all peoples. Okay, so the Omaha Table Talk was initially recreated in Omaha in 2003 by the Social Justice Advisory Committee of Catholic Charities in Omaha. But then in 2012, Inclusive Communities acquired the Omaha Table Talks and shifted to larger public discussions over comfort food. So today's partnership is with the Nebraska Asian American Leadership Alliance for our Asian American Pacific Islander, or AAPI, Table Talk series, which is focused around conversations around AAPI topics. I also want to point out our sponsors. So I want to thank you and acknowledge our sponsor from the Lozier Foundation, Cox Communications, Humanities Nebraska, the National Endowment for Humanities, and United We Stand. As a reminder, we do record the panel conversation and share outs at the end as well. Over here, we have enabled the closed captioning, and then we have also partnered with World Speaks to provide simultaneous Spanish language interpretation, as well as American Sign Language interpreters. So, should you need to use these services in the breakout rooms on Zoom, please private message the IC team member monitoring the Zoom chat. And then just a few tips for you all too. When speaking, please speak clearly, take pauses, and keep a consistent pace. By following these guidelines, we allow interpreters the opportunity to translate accurate information of the audience to the audience. So today, we'll first hear from our panel who will start the conversation, and then we'll break into table groups or breakout rooms on Zoom, and then have our own conversation around the topic. And then finally, we will come back and share out and hear from each other. So now I'll go ahead and turn it over to our panel.
Hi, my name is Saksena. I'm moderating today. My background is that I'm Australian, but I'm Asian. Well, got it. My last name is actually from India, but people ask, where are you from, right? And then so I let people know that I'm from Australia, but genetically I'm Chinese. And that's the background that I have. So I'm going to ask the panelists here to introduce themselves and let us know how you're connected to the topic, the role of food in AAPI cultures.
Hello. My name is Hong Zheng, and I'm Chinese. I born in China. I'm the owner of the Asian market in here, in 76 and Dutch here, and also I own the China Buffet Mongolian Grill, and I have a couple sushi restaurant in Lincoln and Bellevue also. So I've been with the food business since I'm 25 years old. I started my first restaurant. So I've been in restaurant business and Asian grocery store for like, I don't know, 27 years. Yeah. So hope I can help to people to understand a little bit more food related culture with the Asian. Thank you.
My name is Manger. I'm a Korean indigenous from Burma, but I was born in Thailand. So if I talk about my whole background, it is gonna be very complex. But in short, yes, I'm an indigenous from Burma. called Karen, Karen, but it's say Karen, but we call also Ganya. When it's come to food, I'm glad that inclusive community choose this topic because I don't know about other Asian culture, but in the Korean community, like when we see each other, instead of asking how are you, we ask, have you eaten yet? It's all about food, and we take food so seriously. You know, when we eat meal, it take a lot of time to prep for meal, like in American culture where we eat breakfast, like a light food, and then lunch and dinner. But in my culture, meal like rice is included in every meal.
Hello, my name is Sharon Ishii-Jordan, and I am retired Associate Dean from College of Arts and Sciences at Creighton University, Professor of Education. And my background is Japanese American. I'm a third generation or Sansei from my mother's parents came from the Hiroshima area. My father's father from the same area. And my grandparents arrived in this country between 1907 and 1915. And so third generation now, we are at fifth generation in our family and mostly mixed. I am 1/4 Bohemian because of a Nebraska mix here when my grandfather came here. So I grew up with Japanese foods and have seen it change over time. I also have returned to Japan, which is where I was born when my father was in the Air Force and stationed there. I've returned and taught English a few different times and visited relatives. So kind of understand the Japanese food that has come down to us from the Meiji era, which is the late 1800s and early 1900s brought to this country, how it's changed over time, both here and in Japan, and how our foods are different, even now, westernizing the culture in Japan as well as in the United States.
You can hang on to the microphone there because we're going to pass it around. So with these are 3 cultures represented. Of course, Asia is broader than this, but here's some representation. So question for everyone. What are some special foods eaten for holidays, festivals, and other special occasions, and why are they eaten?
In China, and all the cultures, and we always holiday. In the holiday, we always eat special food for this holiday. I just throw some sample here. Like next month, June 10, in China, it's called Dragon Boat Festival. The Dragon Boat Festival, people have to eat called rice dumpling. They have something special meaning behind that. That was like 2,000 years ago. Have one minister suggest to his king before the other country invaded, and the king don't listen to him. Then he feel like hopeless. Then he jumped to the lake to suicide himself. But of course, after that, like very soon, the other country invaded. Then this country, then people in this country, they try to memory this guy. His name is Chuyuan. So people try to memory him, and people think he jumped to the river and jumped to the lake. They don't want the fish to eat his body. So what they do, they call Dragon Bowl. They prepare a lot of rice dumpling, put the rice inside a bamboo leaf, and throw to the river. They hope fish can eat the rice dumpling instead to eat children's body. That was the whole story come from for over 2,000 years. So every culture, every holiday always have some meaning. Yeah.
For mine, the way I remember it, so we usually eat rice porridge in most of our holidays, like Korean New Year, Christmas, like for every holidays. But I learned later that the reason we had to eat rice porridge was because not many people have enough rice to eat, because during the war, they were so poor and starved that they had to like pound the rice into smaller pieces and then make like add a lot of water so that everyone can eat. So it show unity. It show like what is it, like love, and it show our resiliency during the war. So that's why now we call it takapo for most meal. And if you are a little bit rich, you can add meats and bamboo shoots and like a pepper and stuff like that. But for some people, it's just rice and water.
In the Japanese culture, rice also is important for the different holidays every day, but there are some different ways to prepare it for special holidays. And you might think of rice right away when you think of Asian foods, but there are many kinds of rice that are eaten by different countries in Asia and even different ethnic groups within those countries. For us, it's short grain, more sticky rice with the Japanese. And we make, of course, sushi. So maki sushi, which are the rolls that we'll make for special times. We also have rice that's pounded and made into what we call mochi. And mochi then is served in holidays. And they come in like small balls or little cakes, and you can either cut them up and drop them into a soup. For New Year's, ozone is a seaweed soup, kelp soup with bits of the mochi dropped into it to cook. And when it's cooked, it becomes really sticky, very stretchy, kind of like mozzarella. It's really, really sticky. And we can just bake it on top of like a gas fire, and the top will pop open and the inside becomes very soft. And we use soy sauce and sugar or some other types of things to dip it in. So different kinds of rice are used for different celebrations. Thai, which is what we call red snapper fish, is used for celebrations as well. That's an important piece. And then for good luck foods for celebrations, things that are kind of slimy, you need to have in there a raw egg or natto, which is a fermented soybean that you have to become accustomed to. I don't care for natto. And tororo, which is daikon, the long radish, and it's grated, and then additional ingredients are put in to make it kind of slimy. So that's for good luck. So there are lots of different types depending on the holiday that we celebrate. Our New Year's is different from other Asian countries. It's been westernized to be on January 1st.
It's really interesting. Yeah, I also appreciate rice at my meals. Like, so we're merging different cultures. So for Thanksgiving, we have turkey and we have rice. I need to mention noodles, right? For longevity, naturally. I mean, for Lunar New Year, for anything, like it's a special, for me, I love noodles, and it's a special memory there.
Everybody talk about rice. We should want to let people know rice, it is very important for Asian culture. For the Asian market here, we average sell 1 million pounds of rice per year. Can you believe that? Yeah, a lot. Everything about rice.
Yeah. Okay, so there's all these special occasions, but do you have other special memories and associations from food from your culture? Anyone can answer this one.
Yes, I have lots of great memories with Japanese foods growing up. Going on car trips across the United States, we would always pack bento boxes. So bento boxes now, but for us it was very common. Teriyaki chicken cooked there, and it's served cold in our bento boxes. Onigiri, which is rice that's shaped into, could be flower shapes or triangles or rolls. And sometimes you put seaweed on the outside, and inside there's usually a little surprise. You never know what it is. And so moms or grandmas, now I do with my granddaughter when she wants a cold lunch, and nini or onigiri, there might be some kind of sweet daikon inside or some other kind of pickle. So packing those bento boxes for car trips, preparing the New Year's Day foods together as a family. That's a tradition that I recall, sort of like an assembly line. My mother's came from a family of 10 children, so I have lots of cousins, and we would prepare it sort of in an assembly line with someone rolling the makizushi. Certain persons will roll it, certain persons then will put it in waxed paper to roll it up and keep it. Other people were preparing the insides first. So it was an assembly line that we did. And it's how we learned to make sushi, roll sushi ourselves. And then I remember when we would get sick, it was like a rice porridge that we would be served, taking the rice and water and salt and just boiling it until it became like a porridge. And that's what my mother would feed us. So a lot of different ideas for what was important for us.
In my culture, I remember us eating in this big bamboo baskets. I think if you go to the Asian market here, you can see like this big, bamboo baskets. You will put like a rice, curry, like meats, veggies, everything inside, and then everyone would just like surrounded by that thing. And we don't usually have like tables, so we just sit on the floor and then we eat with our hand. And sometimes I missed it because here in the States, nobody have the same schedule. You always go to work, where sometimes I don't even remember the last time I see my brother, right? So that's something I missed. And I also remember us sitting and eating, and our like grandparents would say, "Oh, no eating, why talking?" And I just thought that was like a superstitious thing in our culture. But then I later learned that because of the Civil War, they have to like kind of eat in a hurry because they don't know what's coming next. So they just like eat, and they get ready. We don't know what's next. So it's just something that I remember about food in my culture, which is sad, but also it's memorable.
And like with noodles, so something that we do not do is cut them. You need to leave them long and slip them up and eat them that way. And then so it translates, we have the Chinese noodles that we normally eat, but then it also transferred to spaghetti. And so we were horrified when we see people like chopping them up or breaking them before putting them in the pot, because in our culture, that's not what you do, because you want to have a long life and you want to keep them long. Yeah. Question for everyone, if you want to answer this one. What are some regional differences with food from your culture?
In China, they have many different, they spend many different parts from the history. So in China, they have the north area and the south area, even west area, all culture different, and the food is different too. So majority in the North China, the food a little bit more salty, and South China food, they put a lot of sugar there, more sweet. And some area, they have a lot of spicy. But even the spicy, they have different spicy. Like if you go to Chinese restaurant, you can order like a Szechuan beef. Szechuan, this province, that spicy usually have a little bit lump, like a wild pepper there. And the Hunan, like sometimes you go Hunan beef, Hunan spicy, just spicy hot. So every area they do have different. And then also North China, they eat a lot of cold dishes. And I don't understand why so cold they still eat the cold dishes. What I guess is too cold in that time. No matter what they cook, they become cold no matter what. Anyway, they say, okay, just create cold dishes. That's what I personally guess. But South China, they eat something warm, hot. Like a Canton, if you go to some like a Chinatown, authentic Chinese restaurant, they have diansan. So diansan is very famous in like Hong Kong, South China. And they like seafood. They do very good about seafood. Yeah. Thank you.
So Japan has different regions as well. Kanto area, which is the Tokyo area, Kansai, which is Osaka and Kyoto area. And then my family comes from the Chugoku area, which is the Hiroshima area. And so there are variations on how we make different types of food. There's one food that's called okonomiyaki, and that is like an omelet a little bit, but a batter omelet with a lot of vegetables in it on a grill and you put a certain sauce similar to a tonkatsu sauce over it and mayonnaise. But that's prepared differently in those 3 different regions. So if you say you wanted okonomiyaki, you have to tell them, do you want kansai, kanto, or chugoku? So there are different ways that you have to prepare that. And there are different confections, sweets that come from the different areas. A lot of red beans with sugar are used in our confections. And different ingredients will go into the maki sushi, which is the rolled sushi, the seaweed and then the rice in it, and you have different insides. We grew up knowing that you could never put an even number, especially 4 items in the middle. So we always have 5 or 7 items in the middle when we roll it. 4 in Japanese is shi, and shi is also a word for death. So you never do 4 things inside your sushi.
That's interesting about the death thing, because in Chinese too, 4 is the death. Yeah. So when I go grocery shopping, I don't put 4 items of the same thing.
Yeah. When you talk about a number, it is in China. If people get married, wedding, you join the wedding. Our culture, we always give them red envelope, right? So to put the money there, but that number, and also like people, for example, they have the baby, then we go there to put in red envelope too. Red envelopes mean everything. So, but when you put a number there, you usually for good thing, you put an even number there, like $100, $200. But if someone, for example, their grandpa passed away or something bad thing, then you only put the odd number there, like 101. You don't put it even. Okay.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Okay, so what does dining in your culture look like when you're eating with your family or with friends?
So we would sit in Japan, you would sit at a low table on the floor, kneeling, or for those who can't kneel very well, your legs go to the side or cross-legged on the table. In this country, you don't see that. The tables are raised up like Western style tables, round or rectangular that we use. And there's nothing in the middle that turns. So there's no lazy Susan. It's just you pass your dishes around. You also use small plates in Japan. So nothing is served on a large plate like we have here. There are a lot of small plates, and certain kinds of plates or bowls are used for certain things. Rice is a certain chawan bowl. It has a certain look. Soup has a certain look, often wood and lacquered. And then small plates for fish or for pickled, even smaller ones for pickled vegetables. So there would be a variety of plates, not one large plate. And then, of course, chopsticks. We would be using chopsticks, but when you use chopsticks, there are a lot of rules for what you do when you're using your chopsticks. I think we'll talk a little bit about etiquette associated with meals, and I'll talk about that. And then when you present the meal, there should be some aesthetic to it. There should be some beauty in the way you lay it out on the table. No knives are used because everything is in small pieces. So no knives are put at the table.
I already talked about it a little bit, but I also remember how for the elderly, because like before you eat, you go wash your hand, but like for the elderly, they don't have to. They can just sit at their like around the table, and then we have to bring them the water, and then they will like wash their hand, eat it, and then after that, we also bring them the water to wash their hand, which I don't usually like because when I wash my hand, I need the proper soap and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just like a very unity when it comes to food. People just come together, we eat with our hand. But here in the States, of course, we eat with the spoon, it wouldn't make sense. And we have a lot of veggies. And I don't know if you noticed, but here when a lot of immigrant and refugee come into the States, they will go around the lake, and then they will see a lot of like greenery stuff. They would just like, oh, can we eat it? Can we eat it? It's just like they just think everything is food. Which is interesting. Like we just love vegetables.
in Chinese culture, we really respect older people. So especially in a big event, for example, in a wedding, you can see it in China, they throw big party. Of course, everything about the food. Every table is round table. So because they share the food. But in a big event, usually close to the main one there, like a stage, they have the couple table. This table only sitting for older people. So everybody have to wait for older people sit down. When they start to eat, then the other table can start. So you cannot, just for example, this table cannot start, wait for older people to start. Same thing, when finish, have to wait for older people. When they finish, they stand up, then everybody can leave. That's the way we show them respect.
Yeah, I remember offering the choicest parts of the meal to my grandfather, things like that, like out of respect, give the best piece of the fish or the whatever to show respect.
Even sometimes, if for example, one round table like a lazy Susan, then when bring out the fish, whole fish, in our culture, the fish head have point to the older people. Then they have the first one to start it, then everybody else started. Yeah.
I also just want to add, when somebody scoop up the rice, the first scoop is dedicated to the older people, the oldest person in the family. And if they're not at home, we have to like put that rice, the scoop of rice aside, like right on top of the the rice, and then other people can eat the rest.
That's really interesting. The same themes across the different cultures. Yeah, I just also remember the lazy Susan, and there are rules about it. Who gets to spin the thing, or who takes a turn, and then just being patient about that. Yeah, because we family style Chinese, like you share them, have big plates, not like the Japanese, have big plates in the middle, and you share.
Yeah, in here, in American family here, the dining room table always like a long table, right? In China, most of it, not most, 100% they have round table.
Over the generations, what has stayed the same or changed with food from your culture?
As I mentioned, the plate sizes. So in the United States here, and even in Japan, they'll use a large plate now rather than small plates. I like the smaller plates, but they'll use a large plate. And the other thing that has changed is the kinds of sushi that you'll see. So sushi, people automatically think it's raw fish, but it's not. Su is vinegar. And so it refers to the way the rice is seasoned with vinegar and a little sugar and salt. So sushi is the way the rice is prepared, and then it's served in all kinds of ways. Rolled, or with raw fish on top, or with cooked egg on top, or just a variety of ways. But what I don't care for that's changed here is the cream cheese in sushi. I do not like Philadelphia style sushi that puts cream cheese inside. And I don't care for mayonnaise on top of my sushi. And they'll cut it and put some mayonnaise, maybe with some hot sauce. And some of that came out of Hawaii too. But those are the couple things that have changed that I know.
If you go back to your family's country of origin, what differences have you noticed with food and dining traditions, if any, compared to the US?
When we go back to China, first of all, we want to let people understand, if you go to China, they don't have no crab and goon there. And after meal, they don't have no fortune cookie either. So food's a lot of different. We call it Americanized here. But if you go to China, you better know how to use chopstick. They don't give you fork. And if you go to China, they go a lot of people, they go to bigger restaurant, they get big round table. Because lazy Susan, the middle one, they turn automatically. They keep turning. So you need to learn very good use chopstick. Otherwise, you keep trying that. Before you pick it up, the food turn away. They're not going to be fun. Yeah. Culture's a lot different here. Like a food here and Chinese restaurant in United States, the most food be more Americanized because taste different. We use a lot of sweet stuff here too. Like you go to the sesame chicken, Genoseo chicken, orange chicken, they are pretty sweet. And also they use a lot of rice too. I mean the soy sauce too. You see all the rice come out, they like put the soy sauce there too. So food's quite a bit different here.
I went back I went back twice, and what I remember is most of our food back home, we usually use bamboo leaves, like to bake, to, I don't know, steam, to whatever. So it's very environmental friendly. But when I came home here, I think Omaha is home now. Home here, I realized that we are wasting a lot of food, and like back home, like, okay, if you don't finish the rice, you can like stay feed it to the chicken, like, you know, to like other animals, like you have a little fish pond. But here, we don't have that community. Like everything go back to the trash can. So I don't know, it's just interesting to think about it.
In the US, the Japanese food has changed so that we see more meat in it. When I was growing up, and when I visit relatives in Japan, a lot of vegetables, but very small, few pieces of meat. But now here in the US, they'll put more meat on, especially if you go to a Japanese restaurant, because you have to cater to the taste of the Western people, not the Japanese. So you're going to have more meat. The teriyaki sauce here is too sweet. It's really sweet and thick. And teriyaki sauce that we make is not that sweet. And in Japan, it's kind of changed as well. More fast food restaurants. So you'll see the young people going to the fast food restaurants to eat instead of eating more Japanese foods.
Also, the fish in China, usually we eat with the whole fish, like with the bone on. So shrimp, same thing, we like it with the shell and the head on too. So probably people don't get used to here. Like here, fish, we eat the fish fillet. Now we have the China buffet. You know, I don't want to put the fish with the bone in there. I don't want to get sued by customer.
Yeah, because when you have the fish head, you know it's fresh, right? Yeah, you see the whole animal, you see it's fresh.
We care about, we very fast. Yeah, we eat a lot of like, especially we grow up in the ocean in China. So we eat seafood every day. When I'm little, like my parents, they go to the market to buy grocery every day because we don't have a refrigerator at that time. You know, if we go there every day, fresh codfish, fresh picked vegetable. So that's like their routine job. Every day go to the small, not the big, they don't have no supermarket there, just small, straight like food there. They will pick it fresh stuff every day. Yeah.
I remember years ago visiting Hong Kong and then going to a market, and they have the whole animal hung up, and then you pick what you want. You know it's fresh.
Yeah, it is. If you like it, the pig or beef, they're hanging there. You pick which one you want. Then, but one thing I need to point it out, they don't sell dog there. A lot of American people, they think Chinese people eat dog. No. I don't know where they come from. Maybe very rare couple of people. I don't know. But generally, the way when the area I grow up, no, they don't eat dog. No.
Memory I have is when we went to the market and then we picked out the chicken that we're going to have for dinner. It was a live chicken. Yeah, that's you.
You point this one. You point. Okay, I want this chicken. They killed it right away, and they do it very fast. I don't know how do they do it. They kill it, and then the peel everything, cleaning up everything, very quick. Yeah.
I have visited India a lot. We don't have somebody here from India on the panel, but I would go to the northeast part of India where indigenous and tribal groups live, who look more like Southeast Asian and Southern Chinese. And so going to get fresh meat at the market for the students I would take there for a month, we would go with the Jesuits. We stayed with the Jesuit priests there and work in the schools, but it's picking out the chickens, and they would tie their legs together and put them in the back of the Jeep. And so we would take it back to the house, and we didn't have to cut them up, but the kitchen girls who were there helping would cut them all up. But that was fresh. They're still squawking in the back of the Jeep. But the fish as well. In Japan, you serve it with the head on it. There's no fillet. So you serve it on a skewer, the smaller fish, and charcoal fry it, and then give it to you. And really, I think the cheek is the best. The head, yes, the cheek is the best.
And Chinese people, they eat the fish eyes too, eyeball too. Yeah, yeah, you heard about it. And in Asian market here, we sell a lot of fish here. And even when you go there, you see the customer pick, hey, I want this fish. Then our service, or we take out right away and scale them and clean them and cut them too. That's the way we sell it in China too. Yeah.
You've probably noticed in some of the restaurants, especially in the bigger cities, then you have the tanks of fish at the restaurants and you pick what you want to eat. Same with lobster, crab. Yeah, it's fresh. It makes a difference. It makes a difference eating fresh food.
Yeah.
And the crab, you get it in the shell. And when it's cooked, my mother's generation, and even people in Japan who might be my generation but older, you don't rinse off the crab and take just the meat out. That yellow stuff that's in the middle of the crab, that's all cooked when you boil it, and you put that on top of rice, on their rice. And I couldn't do it, but the generation before me did.
I'm getting hungry. I haven't eaten yet. So what is a must-try food from your culture?
Ooh, in my culture, I would say this thing called ngabanto. It's like what is it? Like a sticky rice, but you add it with okay, I'm gonna explain the whole thing. There's a bamboo. You guys see bamboo tree, right? And then there's like a bamboo flower, the little brown thing. Can you imagine that? Like if you Google it, like a bamboo, I think bamboo tree flower, something like that, but it's brown. You cut it into pieces and then you mix everything. You mix that with like flour and like a lot of ingredients, and then you just put it into a bamboo leaves, and then you fold it like a triangle, and then you steam it. It's really good. It's like I grew up eating that all the time. We usually give that out at the Korean New Year. So if you follow Korean Society of Nebraska like website, not website, like Facebook page, we do have our Korean New Year once a year in Lincoln High School in Lincoln. If you want to try it out, I know a lot of like Korean auntie women, they do a lot of great food. So we feed it, we give it out for free. So I invite you guys, like on behalf of the whole community.
So of course, sushi and all of those things have become popular, but I think you should try tofu, not cooked, but cut up, and then you grate daikon over it, or ginger, and then put a little soy sauce on top of that. It's cold, served cold. It's very, very good that way. So that, and then senbei, which is rice crackers. If you haven't had those, we lived on rice crackers as kids instead of potato chips. And of course, mochi or manju, the rice that's pounded.
If you talk about a must-try food in China, I can talk about for half hours if you want me to. A lot of good food there, a lot of good food. So, but couple of things I want to suggest people we can try: fried rice, but not the regular chicken fried rice or beef fried rice. If you go to the authentic Chinese restaurant, try the yanchao fried rice. Now we have the menu in the Asian market food court there. Most fried rice, they put soy sauce. But yanchao fried rice, they don't. They use the white color and the egg, very colorful. And they have the shrimp mixed with the other stuff too. Some restaurant depend their recipe, use sausage or whatever. So yanchao fried rice is a must try. But when you try the yanchao fried rice, don't pour the soy sauce there. And also, you should try some noodle too. Just like you say, with a ton of different noodles. We have Singapore noodles like that with the curry style, and also like a Taiwan noodles. They have so many different kind of noodles too. We call it angel hair noodle, not the spaghetti. Yeah, those you should try too. And even the noodle we call flat noodle, like called beef chow fan. That's one you can see it in the authentic Chinese restaurant too. That's my favorite also. Yeah. A lot of different things. Yeah.
That last one is also my kids' favorite, and I love it too. So we're going to proceed to the next section of the afternoon now.
All right, welcome back, everyone. It sounds like you had really great conversations. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do the share out part of the table talk. So does anyone want to share out what y'all talked at your table? Someone in person or on Zoom? Yeah, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. At our table, we mentioned how, first of all, my name is Yemi, Yemi from Nigeria. And we talked about how we probably should buy less and prepare less food at home. That way we don't have to throw so much into the waste bin. And that way we can, cut down on the amount of food wastage in the US.
Thanks, Yemi. Anyone on Zoom?
Yeah, I can jump in. This is Veronica. Sorry, I thought somebody was about to unmute, so I paused. Our group talked about just a lot of highlights about what the panelists shared with regards to how food is shared and communally eaten, thinking about just the depth of culture that food can demonstrate and the story that food can tell. The story is told over food, but also the story food can tell. And then we talked a little bit more about like authenticity in our group and what is authentic food and how do you define that? Because as one of our group members, Sam, was talking about, he said culture is like water, right? So it's like constantly shifting and moving. It's not static. And so what is like an authentic food of a place and an inauthentic and these ideas about fusion and things being married together and like what new thing is being created. So just thinking about what that looks like as food evolves over time and how it can shift and change as cultures shift and change.
Thanks, Veronica. Who else?
Well, we had a lot of fun. We ended up at the end talking about sake and kombucha, so we got off topic a lot. And what we learned about sake is you drink too much of it, you gain weight, and you could get diabetes. So we're all going to go buy a couple bottles. No, we're some of the points that really stuck out were the honoring the elders with how you serve food, cutting up noodles or not cutting them, and when you can slurp a noodle and where you can't. So at home, slurping noodles is fine. In public, that's not such a good. What else are we talking about? The difference between your different countries and how different the food is. So that it's not a monolith of Asian food. So it's very individualized, and that was made us think about which restaurants we need to try now that we haven't already tried to get more variety in our eating habits. Anything else?
Great. Thanks, Suzanne. We have one more group online that hasn't shared, or someone in person you want to share. Nicole, you want to share?
I would say we talked a lot about some of the other things that folks have already mentioned. Definitely the themes of being more aware and not wasteful about food and how we use it, and just having more respect for just the food that we're eating and how we're eating it. I liked the tagline that came out of ours when we were talking about the different foods and how they were made is, don't ask what's in it, just eat it. And then if you like it, then they'll tell you afterwards what's in it. I love that. Thank you for that one in particular. And definitely the appreciation for how the elderly are respected and treated around food. And then there was a suggestion out of all of this for an IC potluck type thing where everybody could bring their cultural food. So, and you could tell whether a restaurant is authentic or not based on whether you walk in and they actually have silverware versus chopsticks. Like, what do you have to ask for or not ask for? So those were some of the things.
Thanks, Nicole. I'm definitely down for a potluck. All right. Anyone else?
So I actually have a question from somebody online. They are a doctoral candidate in anesthesiology at Clarkson College and hoping to hear more about, maybe this goes for the panelists here, how food and health align in each of your cultures. Do you all associate food with healing? How can healthcare providers better respect or acknowledge the traditions? And then are there cultural foods that connected with certain healthcare conditions or traversely associated with better health?
So here, yeah. So in Chinese, we use a lot of herb. So in especially in Canton, Hong Kong area, so they are very good to make a soup. They not only put like a beef or chicken there, or spare rib. They put a lot of herb there. Like every different season, they drink different soup. And also they, for example, okay, you've been coughing for a while. They give you a certain kind of herb to make a soup free for you. And they've been doing that for many, I don't know, maybe thousands of years. So even in the Asian market right now, we still have one section sell the herb. Yeah, so especially you see older Chinese people, they will come there to asking for some special herb. They were very helpful. And the good thing about it, the soup tastes very good too.
Thank you for the question. I think when it comes to food or like a medicine, we eat, it's like interchangeably, you know, in my culture, we eat a lot of ginger, turmeric powder, anything. My mom was just like, oh, something wrong, turmeric powder. I don't know. For her, it works. But I also want to shed light on the immigrant and refugee community too, because when we came to this country, we were so traumatized by the healthcare system. And when you go to the doctor, you don't want to take the Western medication because many times you're scared. And when like we came to the States, we have to go through a lot of what is it called, medical check. And doing that process, many of us were treated badly that we don't even like trust the healthcare system. So if we really want to like bridge the gap or like learn about the culture, I think we really have to understand where they came from. And then many times they will go to the doctor, get their stuff diagnosed, come back, and then do their way. Like, okay, let's get the herb, right? Like, and then let's get like the traditional way of healing something. So that's very interesting.
In a lot of our cultures, and I know within the Japanese culture, the fermentation, foods that are fermented are really a part of our diet. So whether it's pickled or miso, something that's fermented, and that's really good for your gut, your microbiome that's there. So fermentation, the umamis, the flavor that probably the Western world never even heard of or thought of, which was just a part of our diet. You know, the sour and you know the sweet, but the umami flavor, that whole piece is a big part of Asian diet. The green tea to help with your digestion after a meal, you have green tea, and the ginger is really important for, again, digestive processes. So when I mentioned before about not liking that cream cheese and the sushi, a lot of Asian people are lactose intolerant. So, you know, we don't put cheeses in things. And so when there are meals that are served someplace, whether it's in schools or in hospitals, just being aware of the different types of foods that are different, more fish than meats in some of the different meals. So that awareness of how it impacts us and the kinds of foods that we're used to and that we're used to for taking care of our own bodies, that we've heard from our parents and our grandparents and great-grandparents, but we know also from our personal experience what makes us feel better in terms of our health. And I think the other piece with when you talked about healthcare, Manger, I have been in mental health and worked in mental health settings. That idea of Western solutions for mental health are maybe very different from the Eastern or Asian resolutions to some of that. So the whole idea about medication and what that does to some of our systems that are not the same as the Western systems. So I know I was in mental health, so psychiatric care, and that Asian people would stop medications because it was impacting them and their doctors weren't listening to them on what it was doing to them. The psychotropic medications were more powerful than they could use in their systems.
Yeah, I was always sort of thinking with the healthcare that when you're in hospital, you have people the option to bring food from their culture or whatever things that heal. Because sometimes you're in a hospital and then they say you need to order the food from here, from this menu. And if you don't know to ask that you could do something different, you know, is it possible that you can have something with the herbs or, you know, other foods? I remember when I had my first kid, that a Japanese friend brought me some special red bean thing. I don't remember what exactly, but it just hit me. It's like, oh, there's significance and there's reasons why people have done this for generations.
One other piece, and that's what affects your thyroid, and that's iodine. And there's iodine in seaweed and certain types of seaweed. The brown brown seaweed, I believe it is, that's what is in nori for sushi is not bad. But there's another type that if you eat too much of that, we call it hijiki. It's a certain type that can increase your iodine levels. So that can affect your thyroid. When I had a thyroid test one time, they told me just eat your regular meals and come in and we'll put a dye in you. And I remember I ate my regular meals, which included seaweed. And when they looked at the test, the assistant said, "Oh, just a minute, I have to get the doctor." And I thought, oh, you know, what was that about? But he said, what kinds of things did you eat? And I said, you told me to eat my regular food. So, you know, when healthcare asks, don't assume that a regular food is what their diet is, that your diet might be very different, that might impact it.